Why Shahroor? At the end of 2019, we lost Dr. Muhammad Shahroor. He was one of the greatest minds in religious and Islamic thoughts, spending 50 years researching the Qur'an. He came up with brilliant work and outstanding results. May God bless him, and may he rest in peace. In 1990, Dr. Shahroor published his very first book, The Book and the Qur'an, a contemporary reading, in Arabic. Although banned or restricted in many countries, by 2000, the book was printing in its 15th edition and was ranked as the most influential, widespread book in the Arabic-speaking Muslim world. Dr. Shahroor since had published two other highly recommended English books, The Qur'an, Morality and Critical Reason, in 2009, and Islam and Humanity in 2017. What sets Shahroor apart from any other thinker, East or West, is that he was able to find an alternative to traditional Islamic thinking, based on a complete reliance on the Quranic text, critical reasoning, and contemporary knowledge. He was able to find satisfying answers to many of the tough, must-answer questions that nag the minds of reasonable people. He put many dilemmas to rest by thinking outside the parameters of the rigid jurisprudence rules set in 8th century AD Arabia, the Abbasid era. This really changed the way one looks at the Qur'an. It helped shift the center of the gravity back to the Book of God, which is the only holy or living textual source of any religious interpretation. The results are that everything makes sense and fits nicely into place. What kind of questions did he answer? They range from very subtle ones to the more profound philosophical ones, such as: can science lead to God? What is the theory of knowledge in Islam? How do you know that God exists? Is this world a reality or a mere illusion in our brains? How do you feel about hand-cutting as punishment for thieves in Islam? How do you feel about polygamy, the practice of having more than one wife at the same time in Islam, and the fact that the Prophet at one point had 9 wives? How can an ethical religion accept slavery at any period of time? How can a person own another person? Not to mention the right for sexual activity with or without consent. Why is God not answering the supplications or du'as of millions of sincere believers to lift the agony, humiliation, and injustice of so many people, especially Muslims around the world? Hadith affirms, perhaps a dusty, shaggy-haired person who was driven away from doors, if he were to swear by Allah for something to happen, Allah will certainly make it happen. Is it hard to believe that no such person out of billions has his or her supplication answered by Allah? You will be superior if you are believers. Qur'an, chapter 3, verse 139. Why do Muslims not currently rank top in any field? Science, sports, innovation, morality, justice, arts, humanity, technology, democracy, and education. Why the increase in rituals, prayers, fasting, etc. does not translate to an increase in morality and ethics. We see fuller mosques, longer beards, and more covered women, but more deceptions, injustices, and inhumanity. What is causing the disconnect? Why is Islam so restrictive? Why do Islamic scholars, the fuqaha, make it so difficult to be closer to God and attain harmony with oneself without breaking the rules? Can the guilt factor pull you away from Allah? Is there too much emphasis on technicalities at the expense of spirituality? Why are Muslim societies lacking in terms of innovations and advancement? Why don't they seem to work collectively well together? Absence of teamwork. Is there a reason why tyranny is widespread in Muslim societies, starting from governments to institutions, to corporations, and all the way down to households? Does this verse apply to our status quo? You think that they are united, but their cores are divided. Domestic abuse, and strike them. Quran chapter 4, verse 34. How can you live with that? Why is the Quran in Arabic? How did the last will and testament get cancelled and almost eliminated in Islam? Inheritance laws keep so many properties idle and tangled. Between too many inheritors, nobody benefits. People find loopholes to go around the laws, such as distributing properties before death. This issue is especially unique to the Muslim world. If interest is prohibited in all forms, how can a business get capital for economic growth for large or small projects? What is the true meaning of prayer? And how could it be a source of a constant spiritual growth even when one can't perform it as a ritual? Example, a woman during her menstrual period. It is a known fact that the Grand Mosque, or the sanctioned house of God in Mecca, has been attacked in the past, and many people were killed in the vicinity of the Kaaba, for example, in 1979, 1986, and numerous times before that. How can we explain the following verse that describes it, and whoever enters it shall be safe? Loyalty. Is there a conflict between loyalties, ethnicity, nationality, religion? Where do the Sunnah and Hadith, actions and narrated sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, stand in relation to the Quran? Is marriage to underage girls allowed in Islam? Did the Prophet marry Aisha when she was only 9 years old? What was her true age? Other questions. There are numerous other questions that Dr. Shahroor posed and was able to provide answers that were compatible with other scholars' conclusions. For example, is there freedom of religion or belief in Islam? How about the ruling of killing the apostate? What is the punishment of a married adulterer? Is it stoning to death or flogging? Can the Quran contradict itself, or having any overriding or overridden verses in it? Is Islam compatible with democracy? How about the separation of religion from politics? Can man control his destiny, his or her wealth, health, etc.? How does destiny relate to the divine decree? Were there humans before Adam? What is the Islamic position on arts? Are most people destined to hellfire? Will there be the Antichrist, Mahdi, or a return of Christ? Is there torment of the grave? What is the spirit, according to the Quran? How different is it from the soul? Other questions. For answers to any of these other questions that were not exclusive to Dr. Shahroor, you can click on the link above. In conclusion, by implementing a certain methodology, Dr. Shahroor was able to restore the truth, progressive, and profound message of the Quran.